Okay, so we are recording, and I'm glad we are. And welcome to this open house Zoom. We are registering women for our fourth cohort. All right, our cohort will be 2023, and I'm glad you're here and interested in hearing what we have to say. So I'm Whapio, and I have Shakana with me here, our Dean of Students, and I have Jess with me over here, who is our program director at the Matrona, where your staff, as it were. All right. And if you know me, you know that I always start everything with a word of thanks, a shout out. So I'm going to do a real quick one right now. A shout out to the people who have really, whose shoulders I have stood upon, who have made me the midwife I am today and have influenced me greatly. All right. And first, that would be the Grand Midwives of the South. All right. We have this idea that midwifery had been lost. Okay. And there was no more midwives left. And we're lamenting this. Well, that's just not true. It's not true in our country. It's not true across the world. There have been indigenous midwives catching babies all the time. It has never ended. Okay. And so a shout out to the grand midwives of this country who kept midwifery alive. Okay. While we were all lamenting there was no more midwifery. Okay. So how you figure. All right. And well, just since I'm on a roll here, those grand midwives, they were amazing. I met a few of them in my day. All right. When I first started practicing and learning midwifery back in the 80s, there were a few of those midwives who were still with us and alive. They weren't really practicing. They had retired, like Margaret Smith and Andia Yeldell and Miss Minnie and a couple of others. All right. So a shout out to them and the way they practiced. Do you know that they were not clinical practitioners? They just met women where they were at. They were practical women who knew how to care for each other. And that is what they did. They nurtured their moms. All right. Nothing, no clinical things, no vaginal exams, no palpating, of course, like let's give that baby a massage. All right. But I owe a debt of gratitude to those midwives because truly they have shown us what I feel organic and authentic midwifery is all about. All right. Women caring for each other in many ways. Okay. So then I have to say thank you to Dr. Michel Odent. Michel Odent. He's from France. Many of you will be aware of him and his input in the birthing realm today. Back in 1984, I was just a young midwife then. All right. I found a book and it was called Birth Reborn. And the drop line was the demedicalization of childbirth. And I found what I was looking for. All right. Because with his numerous books that he's written, he's all about undisturbed birth. And that has been the trajectory that I have, created my practice and the whole Matrona approach on. Undisturbed, not disturbing people during one of the most transformative experiences that they will ever have. All right. And sadly, his first book, Birth Reborn, is still relevant today. We haven't got it yet. We haven't really rebirthed birth. We've added a lot to it. And I can say this from a perspective of being in birth for 40 years now. All right. I can see that there have been many changes. I've observed many different things happening. Sadly, I haven't seen many changes in the caregiving. In fact, I think the caregiving is even a little more strict and restrictive for women than it was back in those 40 years ago when I started midwifery. Okay, it's still relevant today. And then I was thinking about Michel Odent because he made a guest appearance on another game changer. All right, The Business of Being Born. All right, in 2008. And he was on it, featured in the movie, very quick little vignette, but my favorite part nonetheless, because it meant so much to me. They asked him, how do you feel about birth today? All right. And here's what he said in the most non-judgmental and humble way. He said something like, Well, when it comes to birth today, we have lost our way. And that's true. We have lost our way, and nobody's at fault. We're not blaming any person or anything like that. It's just very simple. We've lost our way. Sometimes we do that. And what about getting it back? What about finding our way? He didn't leave it as, well, sorry, we just lost our way. He said, no, we can get it back if we go back to square one. All right. What was square one? What is square one? Square one is birthing with the people who have the highest investment in you. All right. People who have your best interests at heart, your back, people who are invested in you. Who was that in square one? Midwives, doctors? No, that was your mom, your sisters, your aunties. All right. Your family. All right, your partner. These are the people who have the highest investment in you. And if you asked me, well, Whapio, what would you tell pregnant women, birthing women today? This is what I would say. Don't give birth with anyone who doesn't have your best interests at heart. All right. Don't give birth with anyone who doesn't have your back, for whom you are their priority, not priority number 4, meaning their system, the license, their colleagues, and then you. I mean, you are their top priority. And I'm so grateful that doulas can be a woman's top priority, because right now doulas have it good in the sense that they don't have a lot of protocols. You can practice doulahood as any way you want to, any way the parents want you. All right. You don't have to check any boxes. So there's that. All right. But Michel Odent, there you have him. He was one of the influential people in my life. And then last but not least, all right, a shout out to all the women. All right. All the women who whose births I have attended. All right. When I first started midwifery back in the early 80s, all right, that was my apprenticeship. I apprenticed for 3 years, and with an independent midwife. All right. And I too am an independent midwife and always have been. But when I apprenticed with her, all right, for those 3 years, we had a practice where your clients can come first. There was no one else to answer to. There was no system, all right, or colleagues that required you practice in a certain way. And so these women, they taught me so much. Why? Because when I came into their communities, and I was living in Georgia, and most of my practice was in the state of Georgia, with very wonderful, a lot of non-resourced folk, all right, and a lot of folk who were having a lot of babies, all right, fundamentalists, Baptists, and the Mennonite community, all right, and when I came to them, I felt very humble. I was just, the second woman that I worked with was having her 7th baby. Well, I quickly realized, what am I going to tell a woman who has had 7 babies before? I'm going to sit at her feet and learn about birth. And so I did that, and many women were only too happy to share and to teach me. And so I stand on their shoulders. I bring forth their wisdom, really. All right. One of the first things, wisdom things that families taught me was, Whapio, we love you and all that, but we don't need you to be the center of our birth. Now let that soak in. We don't need you or want you really for you to be the center of our birth. We want our partners. We want our loved ones to be the center of our birth with us. We'd like you just to back up. And I did. I thought, this is so wise, all right? And do I want to be the center of someone's birth? Never, all right? Did I want my midwife necessarily to be the center of my birth? No, and she wasn't. All right, because my partner was. I drew my partner in. That's who I had eyes for and a heart for and feeling for. All right. So I understood completely when these women kind of gave me this message of backing up. We've got this, Whapio. You can relax. We want you here as the presence of love and reassurance. but you don't need to be the center of our birth. So you see what I'm talking about? How much I owe to the women who have graced me and honored me by allowing me to come to their birth. Okay, so those are my three big ones: the grand midwives, Michel, Odent, and the women. And I have been around quite a while, for 40 years in birth. This is my 40th year. And what I've seen having the most change with and being different is the women. Remember, I just said not the caregivers, but the women. The women are showing up. They're showing up for one of the best, greatest, magnificent transformations in their whole life, giving birth. Birth is mattering now to women. It matters who's in the room with you. It matters who your caregiver is. And here's what women are saying to me: Whapio, I want my birth. I want my own birth. And I'm like, I know exactly what you mean. Because, in many places in this big wide world of ours, if you go into the system or if you have a licensed caregiver or something like that, you get their birth, okay, their idea of what a birth is. I tell women, you go into the hospital and you will get a very artificially curated experience of birth. So you've got to make it your own. All right. And for some women, starting out in a hospital is not where they want to be. For some women, well, just look at the idea of free birth right now. That is a huge punctuation mark, if you will, a big exclamation mark about how we are evolving in the birthing realm. All right. 20 years ago, free birth was not even an option in anyone's mind. All right. The only free birth happened was when you didn't get to the hospital in time or your caregiver didn't get to you. All right. And now it's a viable option for people. I think this is so amazing. And let me say this right now: whoever you are and whatever you have, if you have something, all right, if you have something to evolve birth, all right, to give to pregnant families, you will not be wasted. All right. And you are welcome here. I believe that no matter what you have to offer, if it comes in humility and having done your due diligence, I think it's totally valuable. And I don't think in any way we need to be telling people who should do what or when or where or how. Let me just say that everyone's welcome at the gates of birth, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. So let's see what we want to talk about. Well, in response, okay, to what I have seen women want, comes this Birthkeepers Mentorship Cohort. All right. So what is this about? Let me give you a little backstory. Knowing that women want, and this is what the women told me in Georgia, all right, that we want the presence of reassurance in our room. All right, we want you with us. We want a wise woman to be companionable and take this complete childbirth journey with us. But we don't need you to get too involved in our birth. This is what I've seen. Women are asking for companionship. All right, they're not asking for management. They're asking for companionship in their pregnancy. They want somebody to take this journey with them. All right. And that person that they want is a fountain of information. Oh, yes. Women want to be informed. They want to be authentically and organically informed. They want people to tell them the truth. And oftentimes in our culture, two different people will tell you two different things about the same thing, depending on their bias toward that. Women want the truth. All right. They want a companion. They want somebody that they can consult with, that they can talk to, who can witness them in this amazing transformation. All right. They want a birth witness. And this in pregnancy for sure. And unfortunately, what women get, instead of elevation and affirmation and support, a lot of women tell me that they get risk screening and anxiety. Okay. How is that relevant to a healthy, happy mother-baby birth continuum? All right. And dad too. Risk screening? Is this what we have to give? And anxiety? No. All right. Okay. And then I have found that women really like to have someone with them in the postpartum. Postpartum is such a gift, isn't it? All of these transformations that you've been through, now you get to integrate them. And imagine if this birth companion who was there in your pregnancy and there in your birth and now is in your postpartum, what a continuity that gives to you in the integration process that happens in the postpartum. And this is something else that I've learned, ironically, all right, over the years, and I learned it pretty quick, is that women want you as a companion, definitely in their pregnancy, and they want you as a witness in their postpartum. But during the birth, women honestly don't need a lot, even a first-time mom. If that woman is comfortable and conversant with her instinctual responses and is comfortable with who is in the room and believes that she is in the presence of people who love and reassure her, I find that women just have their babies. They don't need a lot of extra work, a lot of extra care. All right, they get hooked in, they go into those deep altered spaces, all right, of brainwave states where their brainwaves slow down and they become deeper and deeper and deeper. And where do they go? They go to the realms where pain fades into the background, actually. And what's in the foreground? Your relationship with your baby and this labor that the two of you are doing together. And you receive information that no one else could ever give you. All right. At this moment in time, how could anyone else give you this? How could anyone tell you how to breathe or how to push or when to push or monitor your birth in those ways that are very clinical? All right. A woman has left behind the clinical aspects of it. And we want to go with her. She wants you to come with her. She doesn't want to labor for you. She doesn't want to birth through you. She wants to be with you. All right. So let me speak now to the idea of a birth keeper. Well, when I started using the word in 2020, all right, birth keeper, I thought it was a wonderful word. I felt it and very encompassing. Right from the beginning, I felt that anyone can be a birth keeper. Anyone who is interested in facilitating a woman and her pregnancy and its journey through life and birth. Anyone can be a birth keeper. You can be a massage therapist, you can be a doctor, you can be a doula, a midwife. All right. You're a birth tender, you're a birth keeper. And then I found that it became a very nebulous word. People wanted to know more about, well, what is a birth keeper and how do I show up in my community as a birth keeper and what do I do? Am I a doula? Am I super doula? Am I a junior midwife? What am I? All right. And I get that. So I want to be clear. I still love the word birth keeper at all welcome. But what this program is actually offering you is a midwifery equivalent education. All right. In other words, when I created this program, it was for aspiring midwives, people who wanted to become midwives, or people who felt that they wanted to know everything. They wanted to know everything that's in the books. And they also wanted to know what's in the mind of the doctor, what's in the mind of the midwives. So I offer the entire midwifery program to you. All right. It is a midwifery equivalent education for entry level. Okay. This is the program that I wished I had had when I started out in midwifery. Okay. So I felt like 20 years later, I needed to create it. All right. So this is it. So just to be clear, I am not training you as a midwife. I can give you the necessary education. All right. And we can go over the skills and all of that. But I am not certifying you or licensing you anything to practice midwifery. I think you probably know that the word midwife has been pretty much co-opted by the system. All right. And today, the word midwife is usually in reference to someone who is a clinical practitioner who has gone to university training and her job is to manage your care. Well, okay, that woman can be a birth keeper. Of course, she's got something to give. All right, be clear about that. But today, all right, I am going to start using the nomenclature of a birth attendant, because that's really that's much more definitive of what women want. All right. They don't want, they may love doulas, but they want someone who's there for their whole childbirth continuum. All right. That would not be a doula. And they love midwives, but midwives, once again, are trained to manage your care. They have a care plan for you. All right. They often give you a artificially curated experience of birth, because that's what the system does. So a birth attendant for me now, all right, here's my thing, a holistic, independent birth attendant. That's very clear. I'm holistic. I'm independent. I don't work in the system. I am a birth attendant. And with that is all of childbirth. I can attend you prenatally, in your birth, postpartally, for as much or as little as you wish. I'm your birth attendant. And women are saying, yes, this is what I want. All right. This is what I want. And as a birth attendant, because you are not licensed and you are not in the system, you can give women 100%. You can give women all of your investment, all the investment that they deserve. When I was a midwife, it would be unconscionable to put a woman second or third. Okay. Which is why I eschewed all kinds of licensing and certification and practiced for 20 years in the field as an independent midwife. All right. And then after about 20 years, women said to me, now, Whapio, we have taught you well. Indeed. And they said, now you have to go and share what you have learned with us. And so I began teaching. So 20 years in the practice, 20 years teaching, 40 years, here I am, still looking out for women and what they want. Now, does every woman want this? No, some people really would love somebody to manage their care and tell them what to do. And I honor that. But the women that are coming across my desk and to my door and on the phone and doing WhatsApp and Zoom through the world are saying, we don't want to be managed. We want a holistic, independent birth attendant who isn't necessarily going to make any decisions for us at all. We want someone to give us the facts, ma'am, and the authentic, organic facts, and let us make our decisions. We want someone who shares what options we could have, and then we make our decisions and she facilitates us. This is the birth attendant. All right, this is different from a midwife, because a midwife, generally speaking, wants to manage your care. All right. And that's what she's trained to do. And many women are like, I don't want to be managed in my birth. I'm not getting my birth. Hence the birth attendant, the holistic, independent birth attendant. All right. So that's what this program is about. If you enter our cohort, our 1-year cohort, you receive our entire midwifery curriculum, the whole thing. Well, can we do the whole thing in 1 year? No, there's too much content. So we're going to do it this way. We're going to go through the entire program on a fast track. We're going to get all the important information. All right. There are 3 lessons on hemorrhage. You will do them all. You may not get to watch every single video. There are about 225 of them. And I have given you videos because I feel like some of the academics bears explanations. Have you ever read something 5 times in a book and still haven't grasped it? All right. So this is me to you explaining Rh negative or twin to twin transfusion or different things like that. Okay. Our midwifery course, I'm going to say midwifery education curriculum now. All right, because it's a Birthkeepers mentorship course that offers you a midwifery education. Okay, there we have it. Now, let me just say Okay, I've talked about what I consider the birth keeper to be and the birth attendant to be. So that's my little introduction to you. Right now, I would like to introduce you to the other members of our staff. I feel very honored to be a friend and colleague with our dean of students. Okay, Shakana Haley. You will know Shakana. All right. She offers an amazing program throughout the program, throughout the program. You have so many levels. You have Shakana's program, you have a homeopathic class, you have all kinds of different things. So anyway, with no further ado, Shakana. All right. The floor is yours, my dear.
Thank you, my friend and mentor and sister love. um, okay, I'm so excited to see you all come into the room and be a part of this journey. So if you so choose. So I'm Shaconna Haley. I've been in the birth game, as I say, for a little over 26 years. And that's from being a mama to a community advocate to doula. Okay, I was doulaing before I knew I was doing that. But what I first started doing was researching, because I'm a sociologist and I research the sociology of birth and the reproductive life cycle, maternal health and wellness. So all those things are kind of wrapped up. And my last life was as a therapist. So, which is now many moons now ago, but that has never left. And in that, in my journey toward that, student development, adult learning, all those things that are yummy and juicy that help students thrive and survive in their own individual ways. I'm a learning specialist in that way, and how they navigate their journey through whatever transitions in education they're going through. So it doesn't mean structural education, all that. And I know there's a lot of resistance to that when you're in a new online platform. So I'm prepared for all those angst, but I'm not here to be like a you must do, but I do remind you of what the program does and all that. So just administrative process and making sure everyone is okay. That's really all Whapio asked me to do, was make sure everybody's okay. But she knew I had all the other things too, right? So, but my journey with you will include mentorship chats, birthkeeper chats that I do one-on-one. And that actually starts out with orientation, and we do onboarding sessions. So I get to talk to every single person. So you will get to know me more and more. But like now I'm in a lot of advisory. I'm on the retirement side of physical birth and doing in my independent business. It's Interlight Holistic Doula and Perinatal Consulting. So I'm the Interlight Holistic Doula for the socials, but I really am not big on social media. But nonetheless, but in the other thing I provide on your journey here is also I'm writing a book on holistic intuitive practice, which that has brought me a lot of what I have come to know, as Oprah says, what I know to be true about the journey of birth, and speaking from your own practice as a birth keeper, whatever label you're going to give yourself. And we're talking about holistic, independent birth attendant, but whatever label you're going to walk in, that is yours. So I'm really focused on you finding that journey for yourself. I'm, also a rites of passage specialist. So this is your rite of passage on this journey, not only as women, birthers, witnesses in birth. I'm definitely, one of my spiritual gifts is to be, to witness transitions. So that is truly in mentorship. So those two really are like the canon of how I approach things. And as a matriarch now, I'm truly in the matriarch season. I think I've been a matriarch. I say every time, I think I've been a matriarch since I was 14, but now I'm actually over 50 and a matriarch. So, but I'm here to lift you up, make you laugh and smile if I can. And I hope you join us on this journey of self-discovery, because it's always an elevation. We are here to be evolutionary women on this path to elevate and blossoming families. So that actually that's in my mantra that I say with the families that I have, whose lives I've touched. So that's a lot and a little at the same time. So I'll step back now, unless you want me to say something else.
That was well articulated. And I'm so
Thank
honored
you.
that you are my friend and that we are in this work together.
Yes.
I think we go together very well. Thank you. All right. And one of the things as Shakana was talking about before I introduce Jess is I want to make sure I say this. We are looking in this cohort, Shakana and I, okay, we are looking for serious women, evolutionary women. We are looking for you to take this on as a devotional, to spend 1 year learning everything you can about birth. 1 year. That means you focus on this program. This is not the time for you to do your yoga trainer teacher training or you know what I'm saying? We want you to focus on this program for 1 year. If you do, you will be amazed at what you have learned. You will learn so much. I promise you. All right. More than you ever thought you would. Sometimes maybe more than another program could give you in 2 years or something like that. Okay. Focus. There's so much content in it. All right. And it goes lots of different places. So I want you to do your due diligence. 1 year is 1 year. Come on. All right. 1 year for your matrix, the matrix on which you will offer care. Okay. Pay attention, show up, do the work, do the reading. It's phenomenally fascinating. And having said that, we really want you to be happy, right, Shakana? We want you to be happy. We do not want the study of birth
Yes.
to be anxiety ridden. We
No,
don't want you to be frustrated. We don't want you to have to read 90 pages by Friday. Oh my
no.
God. We want you to enjoy. We want you to be inspired by birth. Okay. So we try to make that happen for you. All
Yeah.
right. In the sense of as I unfold more of the program and we talk about it, you'll see what I mean. Meanwhile, okay, I'd like to introduce you to Jess. All right. Jess Scheineman is our program director. She's been an OB nurse for many years, so she does know the ropes. She is no longer an OB nurse in the system, and I'm sure she'll tell you why. And I value her expertise in the political climate of birth and in the clinical aspects of birth. All right. And so with no further ado, hi, Jess. Welcome to our session.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. And I do want to say that so I've done the cohort. I was part of cohort number 1. And in my 1 year of the cohort, it was more valuable to me than my 4 years of nursing school. And I think that says a lot, like even on a physiology aspect, like the way Whapio breaks down the human body and just makes it accessible. I fell in love with my body. You know what I mean? And things were like, I caught myself saying things. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been calling in negativity into my life for so long. I had PCOS and infertility, and I would say things like my body's against me. And then my body would just stay there because I kept saying it and telling the same sad, stupid story over and over again. And so when I learned about my hormones, the way Whapio brings it in, and she teaches you your hormones as if they are aunties, and they're around and they're just doting on you and they just love you. Your hormones love you and they want the best for you because they're your aunties. And when she did that, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to stop talking about my body this way because my hormones love me and my body loves me. So I really do think that like 1 year, if you can just dedicate yourself and really put in the time and the effort and stay focused, you're going to get so much out of this. For me, it was like midwifing myself as I learned how to be a midwife. And there was a lot, you go through transition through the program. You're like, oh my gosh, this is really hard. This is really hard, but you have to do it and you have to stick with it because that's what the women that we serve need. They need somebody who's going to stick with them when things are hard. So I was a labor and delivery nurse for 10 years and I thought I was a really good nurse and I would show up for those families that had birth plans and I'd show up for the natural births. And I loved the job and I thought that I was making a difference. And then in 2019, I caught myself saying things like this job is eating my soul. And I was really, really struggling. And so then I decided, you know what? I'd watch families, they'd come in and they'd be like, I want a natural birth. They'd be so excited. I'm here. I'm having my baby. I want a natural birth. And I'm like, let's do it. And in my 8 hours, we'd have a good time. And I'd go home and I'd come back the next day and they'd be in postpartum and I'd go and see them in postpartum. And they'd be like, I don't know what happened to me. they have a baby in their arms and they look like they've been like hit by a train and they're like, I don't even know what happened. And what I realized is that for these families coming into the hospital and saying, I want a natural birth, it's not enough because they don't know what they're going to get. And so then I decided I want to be a doula. I want to be with these families outside the hospital. I want to sit with them so they know the fight they're up against. And so they can show up in the hospital and get what they really want and understand how to get it. And that's how I met Whapio in 2019. I took the holistic doula program and my mind was blown because I really thought I understood birth. I'd been doing it for 9 years. And even before that, I was in labor and delivery as a nurse assistant doing baths and footprints and stuff. I've been around birth for a long time. And I'm sitting at Whapio's feet and my mind is just blown the entire time. I'm like, oh gosh, we're missing so much in the hospital, we don't understand birth at all. And so I took that back to the hospital with me and I'm like, I'm going to share some of this. And I'm like, we can do better. We can do better for families. And I'm just, like I am now, I'm just animated and I'm excited. I'm like, they don't know because I didn't know and we can make a difference. And yeah. Me and my excitement and really being like, we can do better. Families deserve better. And really kind of getting loud where I'd been a whisper before. We can do better. I'd be like, we can do better. Please, can we please be better? After being on Whapio's course, I was like, oh no, I'm not whispering anymore. I'm not hiding my light. I literally in 2020, the new year, I was like, this is the year when I stop hiding my light and I stop whispering and I show back at work. And this family comes in and they have this birth plan. They've worked with a doula who has helped them lay out exactly what they want. And they own their birth. And I seriously see the most transformational birth. I watch the holistic stages of labor that Whapio teaches us unfold before my eyes. And I watched this father literally just stand in his power and become guardian of the birth. And I watched as that armor chinked down his body. And I was like, this is what it's supposed to be. He held his partner in the most beautiful way I've ever seen. And he caught his baby and he owned that room, The doctor was saying all these horrible things and coming in with manipulation and coming in with all the bad things that would happen if they didn't let us help. And he started to pray and just silence every horrible thing that she had to say. And I was literally moved. I cry a lot. You'll see, I cry a lot, but I was weeping in that birth. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I go outside the room, you guys aren't going to believe what I just saw. I just saw the most beautiful birth of my entire career. And the midwife is crying. She's saying that she's been assaulted. The doctor is like this, missed the entire thing. So mad that she's not in control, that she just missed the most beautiful birth I've ever seen in my career. My manager is writing it up, saying that this is unsafe and uncalled for. The assistant manager is threatening me with insubordination. And I lost my job in the end. That was the catalyst that made them realize, oh, Jessica's always on team patient. She's always going to be on team patient. And eventually I lost my job. So I say that I was forced in retirement, but I wasn't supposed to be in the hospital anymore. I'm supposed to be here. And I'm so thankful for Whapio for giving me a platform, my knowledge. It's supposed to feel like the hospital is still the safest place. Because you know what? Just because you have a birth in the hospital doesn't mean that you have to give up your power. It doesn't mean you can't have a physiologic birth. It doesn't mean that you have to somehow do whatever they say. So how do we show up for those families, whether it's a hospital transfer, whether they feel safest in the hospital, and make sure that they get a good birth so that they aren't spending that year postpartum healing from that birth instead of evolving and integrating all that knowledge that they downloaded during the birth. So that's why I'm here. And I'll pop on throughout the program and I'll share stories. I'm creating programs with the Matrona to help families, for birth keepers and also for families, because I really want families to start asking questions and really understanding all the options that are available to them. That's.
Whoa. Yes. And back in, was it 2019, maybe? All right. When COVID was, raging, Jess offered me this amazing idea. She said, Whapio, if we could get a group of women together, could you give us a good deal on the program? And she started saying, maybe we could find a cohort of women. And the next thing you know, there are 62 women who are under our wings. Jess was with me for the first cohort, Shakana, these next ones, but you'll see Jess, okay, from time to time. She's a wonderful speaker, and I'll have her come in and offer some programs for you too. All right. Meanwhile, she also is going to offer something that is very much in her wheelhouse that she spoke about, which was how to navigate a satisfying physiologic birth in a hospital. All right. Secret information from Jess. Okay.
We've been doing it all wrong, you guys. We've been doing it all wrong. And it's possible to have a good birth in the hospital.
It is. Well, the dates for that are October 15th.
I think so.
All right, mid-October, look for that.
Mid-October, yes.
All right, and it's a very worthwhile thing. Meanwhile, all right, let's see. I'd like to give you a few logistics now about the course. All right. I hope you have read the website. We have reams of information there, or an overwhelming amount of information, but read it, okay? Because it really does offer you a very good insight into the totality of the program. We have some of our curriculum on there. We have who is this for. We have things that we don't do. We're not NECA accredited and different things like that. But can you get your CPM with this program? You used to be able to do it. I think that they haven't changed that. So yes, okay. But all of your questions would be answered there. Well, okay. So do read the website for more information. Meanwhile, let me give you the structure. So first of all, we'll be starting on Saturday, September 24th, with a full day orientation and induction into the Matrona approach. All right, and we have decided to use study groups from the very first. I've always used study groups actually from the beginning. And I love the idea of a study group. Why? Because you're put together with 5, 6, 4, however it rolls, like-minded people that can teach you something if you listen, and people that you can teach what you know. All right. It's a very wonderful thing to have a study group. And sometimes study groups get totally bonded. All right. And I know the cohort that the first cohort with Jess, there's still a group of women that that are still on their study group. All right. So the study group is 2 hours a week. All right. 2 hours a week on Zoom or whatever program you want to call it. We really ask you for a commitment here. Okay. We don't ask you for a lot, except for a year of your life. All right. But we ask you to be present and honor the format of the study group, because if people stop coming to their study group, they fall apart, and that's not satisfying. And we want you to be happy. We want you to be in a study group that does feed your soul. All right. So Shakana is always here if we need to make some new placements or things like that. Okay. So on Saturday, the 24th of September, we will give you the names of your study group folk. All right. So that you can see who you are. That's how we'll introduce ourselves and so on and so forth. Now, we start our programs on Monday and we go from Monday to Monday. All right. So I'm a very organized person, truly. When I do something like this, I want it to be down to the ninth. Okay. You are not going to flail when you come into this program. You will know exactly where to go. You will know exactly what book to read this week, what movie or video to watch, what your study group could talk about. All right, I've got it all logged out for you. All right, so in that sense, it's very easy, all right, to follow. Okay. So I also feel that our study groups should be progressive and productive. So we're not having study groups where we process. If you want to do that, you can have 2 study groups a week. We do have some study groups that meet twice. But the study group that I'm talking about now, all right, the main one for you, will be also scheduled for you. These are my ideas of what you should talk about or what you should learn or what you should share in this week. So it's all very much scripted out for you. All right. However, you do have options here. We don't give a lot of homework. We don't give homework at all. All right. We don't have big exams that you have to study for. You need to know this material so you'll know it. Okay. We don't have written papers. We don't write to our clients. We talk to them. So we don't do a lot of papers. All right. We don't have anybody over your shoulder checking your work or making sure you're on time. Honestly, because I want you to be happy, I give you the program for perpetuity. You can have it forever. All right. I know you'll use it wisely and not use it inappropriately. And so I'm ready to give it to you forever. Therefore, if you've had 2 bad weeks, please go to your study group, but forget about the lessons. They'll keep. Okay. You have the program forever. It's like a veritable library of holistic midwifery. And I'm giving it to you to keep so that if you don't get the work done this week, you can get it done next week or later, or after you graduate, you can go back and say, I need to pick up that video again. All right. I want you to be relaxed and happy and inspired and in love with a devotional. All right. I want it to be a devotion for you. Due diligence, yes, but a devotional. Okay. So there's that. People ask, well, how much time do I have to spend? Well, it depends on what you want. I would say 2 hours a day, 5 days a week. What is that? 8 at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And study group, that's what? 20 hours a week. Okay. You can go on and on. You can spend 8 hours a day with some of this material. Okay. It's up to you, but it's doable. And we've had graduates, okay, who have come through the entire program. Now, what do you get at the end of this program? Well, at the end of the program, you will get a couple of certificates because we are a certificate happy family on this planet. We like certificates, and you deserve a certificate. If you have done your due diligence for 1 year, I want to certify you. I want to honor you that way. So what I offer is what women want. Okay. So we offer a professional childbirth consultant certificate. In other words, a woman who finds you knows that you are a professional, that you are a consultant, meaning you must have a lot of knowledge. Yes, you are a fountain of information. All right. And if you don't know everything, which who does, you know how to find it. All right. If a woman were to say to you, well, what about this fetal testing? Do I need it? I'm getting conflicting opinions. Well, to go and have a conversation with her. You want to look up in your index of your midwifery program, as it were, and find out what you need to know about fetal testing. All right, brush up on it. It's in there. Okay. And then we can refer you to the books. And my point is you'll have a point of reference for everything. You may not know the specific gravity of amniotic fluid, but you know where to find it. Okay. So the program has 4 big topics. One of them is academics, and we are pretty solid with our academics. Okay, part of doing your due diligence of birth is, of course, learning the magic of birth, but it's also learning the physiology, the nuts and bolts, etc. Okay, and we work with the textbooks. All right, here, let me show you. First of all, let me show you my mentor, Michel Odent. Here's his book, Birth Reborn. I spoke about that. All right. Very well. It's an easy read. It's not very long. It will get you in there. Okay. Then when I was a young midwife, okay, I knew when I was pregnant with my first child that I was going to be a midwife. I was 35. And I somehow, grace be given, living in Georgia, I found a midwife who did home birth. I mean, the midwifery renaissance had not really come to Georgia at that time. Okay. So it was just a fluke that I found a midwife from South Carolina. All right. And I asked her, I told her I wanted to apprentice with her. She said, okay. And that's a little story I'll tell you at another time. But she said to me, I'm not a teacher. I'm not giving classes. I mean, if you need me to explain something to you, I will. But you need to get the books. You need to study. So the first book I bought was Margaret Miles' textbook for midwives. Okay. This would be the midwifery textbook in Great Britain. I read every page. I loved this book. Okay. Then Anne Fry, the venerable Anne Fry, all right, began to write books, and she wrote a wonderful, venerable 15-page, a 1,300-page tome called Holistic Midwifery. That's one of our major books, okay, for this cohort. We're going to have Holistic Midwifery. All right, then the venerable Anne Fry also wrote this wonderful book called Understanding Diagnostic Tests in the Childbearing Year. Look at it. It's a nice, solid book. All right. Don't get if you decide to join us, don't get a smaller edition. You want all 1,300 pages. Okay. This is your Bible. This is where you can find the specific gravity of amniotic fluid or anything else you're looking for in birth. Okay, it's in here. So Anne Fry has got you covered. Then we're also using another textbook that I love. It's called Human Labor and Birth. All right, this is the book I used to take to births with me for like the first couple of years when I would be going to births. I basically worked alone. All right, I didn't have a partner for a little while, maybe a couple of months. But for most of my 20 years in the field, I worked by myself with my families, okay? And in the early days of birth, I used to take this book to births with me just in case I had to kind of look up, what presentation is that? And this is what I'm feeling, all that kind of stuff. So we use that book. It's very clear, very concise, excellent. We use a couple of other books for our academics. You can be sure your academics will be solid. All right. Then we also have something called the practice of holistic birth, in which we take a lot of the clinical information and we translate it into holistic. All right. We have some good videos in there of classes when we're talking about all kinds of holistic things and how would we translate this particular experience? What would we do at home? What would we tell a mother to do? So there's that. Then we have a whole thing on homeopathy. Why? Because there's a lot of information out there about herbs, and I love herbs. I use them. But I feel like homeopathy is the medicine of the future. I want you to know it. I mean, really, miracles occur. Homeopathy has the answer for many things that Western medicine just kind of shrugs their, what do you do if a woman has a cystocele, meaning a bladder prolapse? Well, homeopathy has been known to completely take care of that. Back to new, all right? Modern medicine doesn't have anything for that. See, so you want to learn homeopathy. And then, last but not least, we have a wisdom keeping portion. Now, some people tell me that this is their favorite part of the course, and I can understand that, okay? It's where we learn the wisdom stuff, all right? Well, first of all, we learn about intuition and how to court your intuition. All right, we talk about our wounds. Carolyn Mace's work about woundology is really relevant here. We are coming in to a family during one of the most important transformations they will have. What are you bringing? All right. I feel like your wounds are your wounds and no one should tell you what to do with them because they're yours. But if you're listening to me, if you're interested in this program, I am going to make a case for you healing your wounds. Why? So you don't direct another human being's birth or experience through your wounds. Please hear me on this. These are the things that mature us. If we're going to stand in the gate of transformation with women, we want to be mature enough to hold that transformation in the highest and possible way. So we're going to talk about things like rank. And rank is one of the default behaviors of our planet right now. What kind of rank? The one that no one's talking about, psychological rank. Jess just gave you examples of how women go into hospitals and have psychological rank pulled on them. You see what I mean? It's that rank that says, I know best. I'm more educated than you. I'm right. You're wrong. You see what I'm saying? We have to discuss this. We never want to pull this on our clients. Okay. We have to discuss a whole lot of things here. All right. Also, there's a whole portion of the wisdom keeping that is all about conflict resolution, collaborative behavior, mediation, because the other certificate that we are giving you, if you do all of your work and everything, is as a certified family advocate. Okay. And I felt like that's what a lot of women really want. You see, someone who gives them all this amazing information and then kind of goes with them and has their back. So that if somebody is trying to pull rank or bullying the mother or aggravating her, all right, we can step in as advocates, all right, and say, I think I heard her say no, all right, or she doesn't look very happy with that idea. Let's move along. Or she doesn't feel like pushing right now. Can you tell? Or there's too many people in the room. Could some of you leave if you're not directly responsible for what's going on in here? You see what I'm saying? Somebody who can say those things for a mother, right? So that she can have her baby. I know in many cases, doulas do not advocate for the mother. They help the mother advocate for herself. What? Okay, I get it. I understand it. Okay. But here's a woman having a baby in a very unique and deep altered state. And we are asking her to come out of her altered state, go into ordinary reality and deal with somebody? No. All right. So what we're going to learn is collaborative behavior. There's a place for men, a huge place for men that our society has dismissed in terms of men as wallpaper or something like that. Oh, no, no, no. In this case, let me tell you a story. One of the things that I learned, all right, was the first time I heard the Spanish description of birth. It's dar a luz, right? Dar a luz, to give light. And that struck me so hard it was one of those defining moments. It was one of those moments that you're on your knees, all right? Because to understand that what I know about conception and what I know about birth and men and women and life, okay, and then to say that birth is to give the light. Oh, I realized immediately that I am not the appropriate person to receive this light. And I'm clear that the wrong person in our culture is catching the baby. This should be only for the father of the baby. After that defining moment, I never really caught a baby again. Okay. I never did. I felt like it's not my privilege to catch your baby. And unless a mother said, yes, come over here and catch this baby. All right. Well, then, of course, I've got my instructions. But personally, I leave that to the mother and the father to decide how they want to birth their baby, who will catch their baby, what they want there. I'm over in the corner knitting the hat. You see what I mean? I'm the presence of reassurance. I am not the center of your birth. I'm not catching your baby. This is a whole different approach, all right, that I can't wait to dive into this with you because it's so different, yet it makes so much sense, right? Why are we catching a woman's baby? What gives us the privilege to handle her baby before she gets to touch her baby? You see what I'm saying? This is why the fathers are crying, all right? Because they have never, ever been invited this close to something so transcendent. All right. So these are the things that we talk about at the Matrona. We also talk about fear. What about and how you show up for your community and different things like that. And we want to talk about that in this cohort. Well, you're not a midwife and you're not a doula. How will women know how to find you? I mean, are you going to put on your board, I'm a professional childbirth consultant and certified family advocate? Well, probably you might have cards and put that on there. Okay. But here's the thing. If you have something for the evolution of birth on this planet, you will not be wasted and people will find you. You will not have to swim out to the ship. All right. They're coming in. Let them disembark. They will find you. And how are you going to show up in your community? Well, we talk about that a lot. I talked about your certificates. Okay. Childbirth consultant, family advocate. You will be well equipped to do that if you pay attention and do the work. All right. Okay. So let's see. What else? Shakana, is there anything else we should discuss? I mean, yes, there is, but
Yeah. Well, will have the requirements that you have to meet too. So as Whapio is saying, do the work. There are activities to do. So, you do post videos, you do engage each other. You attend our sessions, my Whapio's and mine, and attend your study group, and you keep a catalog of your hours, doing all of that. All of that includes your hours, how much time you're reading, how much time you're engaging at birth activity, because that and applying what you've learned. But all of those things kind of documenting, and you'll get that when you sign up, you get the curriculum. It has like an estimated number of hours for each like video section, etc. But be mindful. I want you all to be mindful. So I mentioned earlier that our schooling stuff comes back in and messes with us. So that stops you from engaging, meaning whatever your learning style is, cater to your learning style. So that's what I talk to you about when we meet one-on-one. Like, what's your learning style? And let's kind of craft your journey to that versus that feeling, like Whapio said, of, oh no, I'm not, everyone will say you're behind in some way. It just doesn't leave people's psyche, I think. But for yourself, not for the whole world. Like Whapio said, put that down, whatever you didn't get to, and keep moving forward, and you'll come back to it. But that's hard structurally in your mind through schooling to let go of. So I kind of help you not get rid of, but ease it along the way and just give yourself a break. Because that, our relationship to self through all the things that we're journeying through, right, Whapio, in terms of the content, right, Jess? It takes you deeper into you in the service of serving family. So you do get to, be vulnerable. So if you're going to witness women being vulnerable, you get to be vulnerable, honest, and walk in your truth. That's a lot of what my holistic intuitive practice does. It brings you more in alignment with that. But what you get to do for yourself along this journey is to give yourself a break, because schooling stuff is the thing that messes up, I think. It complicates, not messes up. It just provides complication. And we don't want a complication, right? Well, we don't complication. You'll hear Whapio say that if you haven't been in Whapio's class, you hear her say that. Like, who wants it? You can have a complication if you want to. But we all get to go on our own journeys, but we are here as a community to support you through the process, right? So it's just there are requirements to meet to get the certificate, but they don't look like a paper, like she said. You do write a childbirth education curriculum at the end for the certificate, but that is what you would naturally do in working with your client. So the structure is yours, but we will go into that later. But once you're signed up and at the orientation for the launch day on the 24th. But just be mindful, all of this will be your relationship to self manifesting through this journey. So that's just to give you a little bit of insight. But I'm here for it. And so is Whapio. But I'm here to hold you all up in the ways that you individually need to. And then as your group, I will visit groups, but that's just so I can know how you all vibe and what's going on. What are the issues coming up? Well, that kind of thing. Not as big sisters watching. Okay, big sisters here to support whatever comes up, or just to listen in and get in on the goods, because I don't get to be in these study groups. So, right, so they're lovely discussions. I love them. We get in it. So anyway, I think I hit the kind of, those are more the tactile, practical things, having to, and keep your hours and that kind of thing. But we can talk about that. I'll repeat it. However many people we have in this cohort, we had 85 or so, the last cohort, I will talk to 85 of you individually. So anyway, that'll be the onboarding, and that happens at the beginning, but you'll learn all of that in orientation. All right.
Wow, thank you for that, because I missed a few things. All right. One of them, when you were talking, it reminded me of our style and approach in the course. And you can learn as a ladder, okay, or you can learn through a spiral. And this is spiralic learning. All right, watch. You can have a ladder of facts here. All right, and you can climb and build on those facts, but they're facts, okay, and they often don't have any mystical component to them. And I like facts. I like to be intelligent, but without the mysticism, it's flat. And then you can have this ever expanding spiral, all right, which is so conducive to the way what our universe is doing. It's spiraling and expanding. And that to me is just the mystical way of looking at things and how you put it together. But if I don't have my mysticism undergirded by intelligence, then I'm spacey. And I'm not flat and I'm not spacey, but I am mystically intelligent. All right. And this is how I like to describe our learning. All right. We do, of course, we learn information and facts, but we learn it in a spiralic way. Why? Because this is what I noticed, and I'll give you this piece of advice. If you're studying, all right, and for me, when I started to study birth, it was pretty much new ground, very fascinating and interesting, all right, but I was more of a philosophy major than anatomy and physiology major. So when I studied, I said to myself, okay, I am not going to pass up a single word. If I don't know what a word means, I'm going to look it up. I'm not going to leave it behind. And so sometimes I'd have a couple of hours at night to study, and I'd get into the first paragraph, and there was a word I didn't know. All right. So I looked it up. And then when I looked it up, there were 2 words I didn't know. And then there were 3 words I didn't know. And all of a sudden, what I realized is that I've spent 2 hours chasing one word. All right. Now, here's what I learned from doing that. As I chased that word and it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and there were more words, I began to see patterns rather than facts. And this will do you really well. All right. When you can just look at a person and see their patterns rather than needing to check their facts. Okay. You'll learn patterns. And this is the spiralic way. And so we might talk about something 7 different times, but each time with more depth. All right. And more profundity and more information and more knowledge and more of the pattern becoming visible to you. You will see what I mean. Look up every word. All right. Yes, you're right. It took me years to get through some of these books. Okay. No, actually, it got much easier the more I did it. Okay. So there's that. All right. And I think you will be, I think you'll understand what we mean when I say spiralic. When I offer, the other day, someone asked me about my prenatal care. And what I told them was, I usually listen. I usually just listen. All right. I do ask some questions. And what's the first rule of asking a question? Give a little something of yourself. So I would usually say to somebody, well, this is me. This is my approach. I'm really hands off. Or sometimes even people would say, we heard you were very hands off midwife. Okay. What does that mean? And of course we would address that, but I don't take charts. I don't have an intake. All right. I don't do a history. I don't ask you questions like how many abortions have you had? I don't ask you how many sexually transmitted disease you had. And don't ask you how many pounds of sugar you eat a week. All right. Those are things that are honestly in any other realm, not my business or anyone else's. And what I noticed with that is that when you do that, when you're all about, taking an inventory of someone, even if it's fun, you are creating a power dynamic. Right? You are holding the reins to asking that woman anything you want to and expecting her to tell you the absolute truth. There is a power dynamic there because you don't necessarily say to the midwife or the doctor, well, how much wine do you drink a week? Okay. Or when's the last time you had a glass of wine or something? So I don't create power dynamics. And I think that's why I was that I was invited into a lot of communities, and I was a trusted person. I was trusted. That's why women taught me so much, because they trusted me. And I felt like one of the hallmarks of my care was to seek to be a trustworthy caregiver, a trustworthy practitioner, and not create power dynamics. All right. Because then they just accelerate and accelerate and accelerate through the relationship. Right. Okay. So this is the focus, a lot of the focus that we have in the Matrona. All right. To be reverent toward birth, to not be the center of someone's birth, to be a fountain of information and know everything you possibly can about birth or where to find it. All right. To be willing to be taught by your clients. All right. To be willing to be the caregiver that the community needs, rather than that you tell the community what they need. Okay. So it's a shift. And also it's the understanding. And it's not just about who's catching the baby. It's about whose birth is this? And can you come into this birth and hold space? A student once said to me, her name is Laura Campagna. She said, Whapio, we don't lack, she used the word midwives. All right. She said, we don't lack midwives. Okay. She said, what we lack are deeply connected women who can accompany and hold space and not interfere with our instinctual responses. Well, that's our job description right there. Okay. Deeply connected women who can accompany and hold space. All right. Not be the center of, not manage, not make my decisions for me or extract from me something. All right. Deeply connected women who can accompany, witness, hold space, and not interfere with our intuitive, instinctual responses. Does every woman have instinctual responses, let's say, to her birth? Yes, every woman has that. Now, what you see is some women aren't used to accessing their intuition or their instinctual responses. Yes, we have to deal with that. So we make women feel comfortable, all right? Not by just becoming a birthing companion with them, all right? One time when I would teach midwifery classes in live, I mean, not live, but in person, every now and then there'd be a student who says, oh, Whapio, guess what? My best friend is pregnant and I'm going to be at her birth. I'm going to be her doula. I'm going to be her birth attendant. I'm going to be at her birth. I'm so excited. And then 2 months later, she comes in and she says, Whapio, she will not take my calls. Okay. If she knows it's me, she won't take my call. What has just happened here? Oh, she's indoctrinating in a well-being way her friend with all the wonderful things she's learned about midwifery and birth, right? And she's just imposing them on this woman. We don't do that. We don't impose our ideas on women. I mean, we offer our ideas, but we don't impose our ideologies about things. All right. We try not to even have an ideology about things. What do I mean by that? A fundamentalist belief system. We're always ready. We're at the ready to meet a woman where she is at. And there's a video on my website, the Matrona, and it's about equality versus equity, I think. All right. Equality versus equity. I'd love you to watch it, in the sense that we don't, in this paradigm, we don't treat everyone the same. We treat everyone uniquely. Some women need a task and some women don't. It's their choice. Okay. That's equity. All right. Equitable behavior. you get what you need, versus equality, everybody gets the same thing. Not in my practice, everybody gets something unique and different, and that is specific to them. Can we do this? We offer this? Yes, we can. You know, Michel Odent said, when it comes to birth, we've lost our way. That's what he said in the movie, The Business of Being Born. And once again, it's very true. So what do we do about it? Well, he said, you go back to square one. And who's square one? The midwife? No. Your mother, your aunties, or what? The village wise woman. I am looking for the return of the village wise woman. That woman in every community, okay, who had her finger on the pulse of what was going on in her little part of the world. And you could go to your village wise woman, and she was usually your midwife, and she had your best interests at heart, okay? Why wouldn't she? And you could talk to her about birth or breastfeeding, about your man, about your kids, about anything, about your life, about being depressed. She was your village wise woman. We take care of each other. When did we learn that we can't take care of each other? This is going to be what pulls us out of the stagnancy of birth that is now artificially curated, where a woman has a really hard time having her own birth in that kind of a milieu. Okay, there's that. All right, does anyone have any questions or anything that we can elaborate on? Shakana did a great job of telling you some of the nuts and bolts and about what are required, the childbirth education class that you'll be putting together as you move through this year. Therefore, you graduate with a fully, uniquely yours childbirth education class that you can offer to your community right now, okay? You can get started immediately because most women like to take classes, all right, especially something different. Okay. We talked about the videos. Shakana mentioned videos. You know what? As I was saying, we don't write to women, we speak to them. We speak to our clients. So instead of writing papers, what we ask you to do is make 2 videos at the end of each module. One of them will be on something academic, and one of them will be on a wisdom keeping topic. 2 3-minute videos articulating something that you know. And if you can do that, if you can articulate a topic in 3 minutes or maybe 4, people will listen to you. Mm-hmm. People will listen to you. And we've got some juicy knowledge for you, and I want people to hear it. I want people to listen to you. So in these little videos, you learn to articulate a topic, and it might be explain blood pressure to your grandmother, or talk to a woman about altered states of consciousness in birth, or something, of that nature. And what you're doing is you're learning to crystallize down and get to the core of something. Why? Because if you can articulate, people will listen. If you're spacey, if you run on, and people are like, oh, okay, right? They're not listening anymore. So this is what it's about here. All right. Being accessible and being articulate for women. Okay.
Well, we do have some questions that were in the chat, so I will give you one at a time. I tried to answer some, but you can clarify. So like the one was about our times, just to articulate the times again in terms of, I said Saturday for you, Sunday for me, unless I need a backup on a Friday, it's depending on the month. But mostly on Sundays from 12 to 2, except for the very first session. Just want to make sure I've said that right. The very first session is all day, right? You said that, or what's the end time? 12 to, how do you want to?
No, we're going to do 11.
11. Okay.
Yeah, because at least West Side people can be up at 8.
Okay.
Okay. And then so if you're on Pacific time, it's 8 to 4 p.m. And I think if you're on Eastern time, it's 11 to 7 p.m. Okay.
All right. This is for the opening day, right?
Yep, that's our orientation day. Mm-hmm. And we might finish early. Okay. Okay. Thanks. All right. So for clarifying that. Okay. Any other questions?
Your meeting time regularly, is it going to be the second Saturday or the first Saturday?
Well, I've been doing the first Saturday of the month, just so that we're all on the same page. But I realize that that can't always happen. So I'll give you some notice. All right. But yeah, I spend once a month with you. All right. Shakana does. And what I do is if there's a lesson that we want some clarification on, it's if there's some topic that's up, all right, like Roe versus Wade or something like that, we will accommodate whatever the class wants to talk about. All right.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And then there was a question about payment plan, but I think they can contact you if you want to talk about that. But is there a payment plan? And then I think there was 2 more statements. Even okay, that payment plan for that. And then also, Jess, did you see something that I missed? Yeah, the syllabus will be emailed. That's a question. There was 2 more statements, so I can't remember where they are. I'm going back. Oh, Sarah asked about, are they required to be an apprenticeship during the year? No.
No, but many women, you get this vibration about you when you're studying birth. All right, you do. And people start telling you their birth story on the bus. Okay. And all of a sudden you've got a midwife calling saying, hey, I need somebody to assist at some births. Would you be interested? It's once it gets around that you're studying birth and you're doing it deeply and you have made a commitment to study birth, that shows in your vibration. That it's not like, oh, I'm learning this, I'm learning that. It's I'm committed to learning everything I can, squeezing every drop out of this 1 year. All right. When you have that vibration, oftentimes I hear this a lot. I don't know why, but this midwife called me up and asked me if I wanted to go to births. And I said, yes. So you may be apprenticing with someone or assisting with someone. You may have women call you up and say, I know that you're at the Matrona. The Matrona does have this reputation for being pretty hands-off and pretty, family-centered, okay? Family-directed, as it were. Not just family-centered. A lot of people say they're family-centered. What does that mean? The caregiver centers their care around the family. But I say family-directed. Why? Because I mean that the family actually directs their care. But we talk about this a lot, and I can talk about it anytime. Okay. So we're having a lot of that today, a lot of self-directed birth, and women are wanting to jump. They want to jump ship. They want to get out of the hospital. They don't know where to go. They're going to midwives, of course. There's also free birth as an option, but then there's the birth attendant, the holistic, independent birth attendant. Okay. There's a couple of those hanging around on the corner. All right. So you are getting ready to meet the needs of your community. That's what we're doing here. All right. And your community will tell you what they want from you. Okay. And it's up to you then to say, I can provide that, or I'm not ready to provide that, or I've been providing that. Yes, I know I got your name from my friend or whatever. But here's my point. I am very big on due diligence. Okay. I don't feel, okay. I do know that women who free birth have excellent statistics, right? We're not hearing about all the babies that are dying from free birth. They have very excellent statistics. And many of these women have not been educated, if you will, about birth, right? So birth is happening, whether, but if you are, I feel like this, you are in attendance at a birth, you are not responsible for the outcome, okay? This is a big part of being a birth attendant. As a midwife, you are. Why? Because you are making the decisions about her care. But as a birth attendant, you are not. You are not doing that. This is evolutionary. This is couples and families making their own decisions, and you are facilitating them. All right. This is very different from what the culture looks at as a midwife versus a free birthing woman versus a doula versus a birth attendant. Okay. So this is primary in what you bring to a woman's birth. You make your decisions. Okay. And I'll give you my mantra. I have said this to myself a million times. And I don't think I could do this work without having this particular mantra in me. And here it is. You ready? It is not my privilege